Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're tackling a question that is, quite frankly, completely mind-bending. What if everything you were taught about the shape of the Earth was wrong? We are diving deep into the fascinating world of alternate planetary realities, exploring sources that track the most prominent conspiracy theories out there right now.
So, let's just dive right in. What if the planet isn't a sphere, but something way stranger? We're going to look at some of the absolute wildest theories currently circulating. We're talking everything from flat maps extending into the unknown to completely hollow worlds right beneath our feet. And as we go through this, we're going to keep a completely impartial and curious mind to understand exactly what these concepts propose. But hey, before we get started, I want to lay down a quick ground rule. Understanding why people believe something is honestly way more interesting than the belief itself. We aren't here to judge anyone's worldview today. Instead, we're here to explore these claims and unpack the fascinating logic behind them. Because when you get right down to it, the why is always the best part of any theory.
All right, let's map out our journey real quick. We're hitting flat Earth theory, hollow Earth theory, concave Earth theory, simulation theory, and finally, diving into exactly why people embrace these ideas in the first place.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Flat Earth Theory. So let's start with arguably the most viral alternate theory on the internet right now, the belief that Earth is not a globe at all, but a flat disk. Now, you might naturally wonder, if the Earth is a disk, wouldn't all the water just fall off? Well, according to this specific model, the oceans don't just spill off the edges into the void. Instead, they are contained by a massive, towering ice wall. Yeah, in this reality, Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom of a globe. It's literally a continuous perimeter of ice surrounding the edges of the flat Earth to hold the oceans perfectly in place.
And you know, what's really fascinating here is the reasoning behind this. Supporters of this theory ask some pretty intuitive questions, based entirely on their everyday senses. They ask stuff like, why does the horizon look completely flat when we look out over the ocean? Or why don't we feel the Earth spinning if we're hurtling through space? Add in deep, systemic distrust of official sources, and you get that third big question. Are space agencies hiding the truth?
It all boils down to a fundamental clash of perspectives. On one side, you have your everyday observations, literally visualizing a flat horizon with your own two eyes. But on the flip side, modern science counters those exact observations using physics, perspective, and gravity. Science tells us that because of the truly massive scale of our planet, the curve is basically invisible to the human eye down on the ground, and gravity keeps us from feeling the spin. Yet, even with those scientific explanations readily available, flat Earth remains incredibly popular.
Moving right along to Section 2, Hollow Earth Theory.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Instead of debating the surface of the Earth, what if the real secret is hiding deep inside of it? What if there's an entire hidden landscape right beneath our feet? Fueled by old legends, like Admiral Richard Byrd's heavily debated polar flights back in the mid-20th century, some versions of this theory suggest there could even be unknown civilizations living inside, with massive hidden entrances located at the North and South Poles. Throw in some mysterious expeditions, sightings of strange lights, and unexplained magnetic activity, and people start piecing together this idea of a massive empty space inside our planet.
But of course, we have to look at how this holds up against what geologists actually measure. When scientists track earthquakes echoing through the planet, the seismic data clearly maps out that the Earth is definitely not a giant empty space. It's actually made of incredibly dense, distinct layers: the rocky crust on the outside, the thick flowing mantle in the middle, and a super heavy core at the center. Still, even with all that hard geological data, the pure mystery of an unexplored underground world keeps people absolutely hooked on the idea.
Which brings us to Section 3, Concave Earth Theory.
Get ready to have your perspective completely flipped, because this sounds exactly like a sci-fi novel, but it exists as a very real, documented belief system. Famously championed in the 19th century by a man named Cyrus Teed, this theory flips the script. Usually, the debate is about what shape we are living on, but concave Earth theory, it claims we don't live on the exterior of a sphere at all. Nope, it proposes we are living entirely inside of it. Basically, imagine taking the globe as you know it and just turning it inside out.
And in this inverted reality, things get pretty wild. Like, if we're on the inside looking up, what exactly is the sky? Well, according to this theory, the sky above you is just a projection hanging in the absolute center of this hollow sphere. And it gets crazier. It suggests that the entire universe, the stars, the planets, the galaxies, the whole shebang, is perfectly contained within the Earth's outer shell. It's a completely enclosed system where the Earth is quite literally the boundary of the entire universe.
Next up, Section 4, Simulation Theory.
All right, we've reached the absolute climax of alternate realities, and this one is actually debated by mainstream physicists and philosophers alike. So what if Earth doesn't even have a physical shape? Simulation theory drops the ultimate plot twist. Reality itself could be completely artificial, like a highly advanced computer program. In that scenario, the Earth isn't flat or hollow or spherical in a physical sense. Its shape might just be, a few lines of code rendering in a massive simulation. It's the ultimate digital illusion.
Finally, let's hit Section 5, Why People Believe. So with all these incredibly different, elaborate ideas floating around, from towering ice walls to digital code, we have to execute a pivot. We need to ask the most important question of this entire explainer. Why do these theories even exist in the first place? What drives human beings to completely reimagine the ground they walk on? Honestly, it comes down to a fascinating psychological mix. It's this perfect storm of sheer curiosity, a deep-seated systemic distrust of authority, and that fundamental human need to question everything around us. When folks feel disconnected from the complex science that dictates our modern world, they sometimes turn to alternative models that they feel they can personally observe, verify, or understand.
And look, it is absolutely crucial to realize that this curiosity, it's not a bad thing at all. Questioning the status quo is an amazing human trait. I mean, it's exactly what leads to scientific discovery in the first place. The vital difference, though, is in how we question things. Do we question using testable, solid evidence? Or do we just sort of question without it?
Because at the end of the day, modern science relies heavily on testing, proof, and continuous observation. And when we apply those rigorous standards, science gives us a very clear, measurable answer. The Earth is an oblate spheroid. Basically, a sphere that's a tiny bit flattened at the poles and bulging just a little at the equator. That is the shape we can reliably and repeatedly measure.
But, despite all the satellite imagery and seismic data, these alternate theories are always going to exist. Why? Because human beings will forever look up at the stars or down at the ground and wonder, what if there's more? It's just hardwired into our nature to push the boundaries of what we are told. So, as we wrap up our journey through these wild alternate realities, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. Out of all of these, flat, hollow, concave, or simulated, which theory surprised you the most? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep asking questions.